What's up, guys, and welcome back to Young Christians United. Today we have the second installment of the series that I'm going to keep doing on the book of John. There's going to probably end up being nearly 20 of these installments, so keep coming back and watching them if you like the first one. If you haven't seen the first one, go ahead and go check that one out first, and then this one, as most of these are going to run into a cohesive thought. But anyway, let's get started. What brings about belief? In many cases, if something is claimed, and a person has proof to back up that claim, it's likely to be believed. If a claim is made, and then that person backs up that claim by their actions, the people who heard it are more likely to believe what that person said as being true. But what happens when that person makes a claim that they can't immediately back up? How then is belief had? Well, the people who hear it have to have faith and wait until a later time when that belief is made evident as to what the person was saying. We have a prime example of that given to us in the latter half of John chapter 2. Jesus was going to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover. And when he walked inside of the temple, he saw all these Pharisees and Jews sitting at money-changing tables. These were people that, as you were coming on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, if you did not have a lamb, say you weren't necessarily a shepherd, but you came to Jerusalem, you wanted to offer your sacrifices, and you could buy a lamb. Also, say you brought a lamb. As you would come in at this time, the Pharisees would check the animals you were bringing in because, according to Jewish custom, you could only sacrifice the best of the best. So if there's any blemish found in it, they'd take it out. Now, a lot of times, unfortunately, what they would do is they would take a lamb and they would say, oh, this lamb is blemished. Let's sell you a lamb. They would sell them a lamb. And then they would turn around and sell the lamb they just took from that person. So they were corrupt individuals. These were the money changers that Jesus saw. And inside of the temple were all these money changers, were all these animals, were all kinds of mess and noise and all kinds of craziness. And Jesus sees this, and you can tell it upsets him. So what he does is he makes himself a scourge, basically a whip that at the end it's kind of frayed, it hurts really bad, kind of like a lesser version of a cat of nine tails. He braids it out of small cords, and he goes in the temple and he starts driving out all the animals, flipping over the tables of money changers, money scattered everywhere. Nobody knows what belongs to who. He's just making a mess. Now, obviously, the Jews and the Pharisees did not like this very much. So they came to Jesus and asked, since you did all these things, like you're some kind of hotshot, what sign do you have to prove to us that you have any right to do these things? Now, the way that Jesus replied shocked them all because he said, destroy you this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Now the Jews were kind of taken aback because they said, this temple took 46 years to build, and you think you're going to destroy it and rebuild it in 3 days? His disciples also didn't understand what he meant. They knew, obviously, of course, and by this point his apostles already knew that he was who he said he was. They had seen his miracles, they had seen his works, but the statement still probably seemed a little far out in the left field for them. But after Jesus died and was resurrected, his apostles and his disciples thought back to this day, and they remembered, and they believed. Jesus made a claim that he couldn't immediately back at that time. But later, when it was fulfilled, the people who had heard it were then able to believe it and realize he spoke the truth. He spoke honestly. We believe him. Now, also at this time, while Jesus was there in Jerusalem celebrating Passover, John says he did many miracles. Now, we don't know specifically what these miracles are. We can assume they were some of the other miracles of healing and things that are recorded in the other Gospels. John himself does not record specifically which Gospels they are, and I'm not going to go through and try and guess which ones they were. But he performed multiple miracles, and what the passage says is that, and as a result of seeing these miracles, many believed. All these people in Jerusalem there for Passover, these Jews, even some Gentiles or strangers in the land that were there to celebrate, saw the miracles of Jesus Christ, and because they saw those miracles, because they saw those works, they believed that he was who he said he was. They believed that he had some form of power, he had some form of authority, and of course, this is the exact reason that John is writing this gospel. Again, going back to chapter 20 and verse 30. But these are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you might have life through his name. That's why John wrote this book. He's showing you Jesus did A, B, C, D. And as a result, people believed. Now here's A, B, C, D that Jesus did. I'm writing this as history. This is fact. Now it's your choice to believe. Then as we enter into chapter 3, A man comes to Jesus in the night. This man is a Pharisee. His name is Nicodemus. We don't know why he came in the night. Maybe he worked all day. Maybe he was hiding. We don't know. Scripture doesn't tell us. It doesn't matter. He came to Jesus during the night, and he asked him a question, and he said, Rabbi, we know that thou art a teacher sent from God, for no man can do these things lest he be sent from God. You see, Nicodemus already had a form of belief. Now, he may not have worded his belief, rather his knowledge, but he believed that Jesus in some form had to be from God. Now, this is due to the fact that he says, we took the fact that you're doing these miracles and these actions. Only people come from God can do these miracles and actions. Therefore, you must be coming from God. He had a belief, based on what he had seen, that Jesus was from God. Now, you can tell his belief isn't quite all the way there. He doesn't believe everything that Jesus said, as evidenced by the fact that when Jesus tells him he needs to be born again to enter the kingdom of heaven, Nicodemus looks at him and says, how are these things supposed to be? You know, he's got this sense of doubt and uncertainty as to what Jesus is saying. And also we see in Jesus' reply that Nicodemus didn't quite understand exactly what it was to believe. Because he said, if you have seen these earthly things, if I have told you these earthly things and you didn't believe, then how then shall I tell you of heavenly things and you believe? So he believed Jesus was sent from God. But when Jesus spoke to him, he didn't necessarily believe all that Jesus said. And Jesus was questioning, if you can't believe these things, how are you going to believe the rest of what I have to tell you? Because I have a message that's bigger than what you're already seeing. I have a message that's so big, I haven't even delivered it yet. Now Jesus continues on with his explanation to Nicodemus. And he tells him that whosoever believes, whoever says a belief, is not going to come under condemnation. That person is free from condemnation. Now, quickly I have to address at this point, this passage does not in any way, shape, or form justify faith-only salvation. If you believe and you have no condemnation, that's not saying if you believe, you're going to be saved. Now, if you have already, you're a firm believer, you have understanding the Bible, do some basic study. You'll quickly see through multiple passages of the Bible, baptism is essential to salvation. I might go into that into another video. I don't really have time here, but I felt like I needed to say that. That is not what this means. Study it out for yourself. Like I said, maybe I'll do another video on that. But it is not telling you that if you believe, you're not going to be condemned. You're good to go. If you just believe that Jesus, it's not saying that. It's not saying that at all. Because anyone who has a true belief is going to then follow the actions and commands that they've been commanded to do. Other passages, we are commanded to be baptized. Anyways, felt I needed to say that. Continuing on, he tells them that if you believe, you're going to be free from condemnation. Belief is essential. Belief is key to attaining to salvation. The Jews at Passover believed. When they saw Jesus' signs and the things that he was doing, Jesus' disciples believed. Later on in the account, after he resurrected, they believed based on his statement about destroying the temple and raising it up in 3 days. Nicodemus believed because he saw the actions, he believed he was from God. And we understand that belief is key in having salvation. So belief has been placed before you. The information, rather, needed for belief has been placed before you. Do you believe? For indeed, these things were truly written, that ye might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that in believing you might have life through his name.